Another difference we know about children is their brains are developing, and they're not developed like ours are. So we're going to talk about brain development, how they're different from our brains, and some things that maybe will help you understand your children a little bit, so when you're working with them you don't get as frustrated. And you can say, oh, that's because their brains are not developed yet, or that's because. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our Play-Doh, and now, because you're past kindergarten, most of you are past kindergarten, we're going to make some other shapes. And there's 3 shapes that you're going to make. What we're going to do with our Play-Doh is we're going to make a representation of a brain neuron, okay? And so about what a brain neuron is, what their functions are, and what we can expect from children with their brain development. Now with your Play-Doh, this Play-Doh is going to become the cell body of the neuron. Now just like your body, it houses everything, it connects everything together. And for this particular neuron, it can either be a star-shaped, a pear-shaped, or a pyramid shape. So I want you to take your Play-Doh and make it one of those shapes. I usually take a star because, once again, that's the easiest, and I just take mine. And then in your baggie right in front of you, you have some other items that will be a representation of your brain neuron. So this is the cell body. Remember, it's what houses everything else. It's what stores everything. As you've gotten those, one of those 3 shapes made, I want you to take out, you've got a little Chanel stick in your baggie. And what I would like you to do is take that out, and you can just coil it up, wrap it up, and I want you to just stick it right in the middle of your cell body, okay, or your dough. Now this represents the nucleus. I don't know if any of you remember your biology classes, what the nucleus does, but it stores the DNA, and so it differentiates this particular neuron. So it will make it very different from the others. And so that's a very important part, because in the brain, everything that our body does has a different neuron to make our body work. Now, so we've got it, the nucleus, and we've got our cell body. I want you to take your piece of yarn, and it's got lots of little pieces on it. And what I would like you to do is stick it right down so it makes a tail almost, okay? Now this is called the axon. And what the axon does is it carries the information from the neuron to the different parts of the body. And it can be up to 6 feet long, depending on where its function needs to go. And I like this piece of yarn that we have because it's got a lot of little fingers on it. And actually that's how neurons, the axons work, is they can go different places too. Now if we had more yarn and more time, we would actually stick some out on the top, because those would be called dendrites. And that's what receives the information. And they might have 5 or 6 little fingers that come in, and then the axon actually carries the information out. So what the function of the brain, where it goes to the body, will carry it out. Now the next thing, and this is going to be a little hard for you to put on, but if you can, you might have to put it up to your lips and suck it on, or just look at mine, is the straw. And the straw actually is a fatty acid that covers the axon, and on this one I just have a piece of it covered. But as a child develops, the whole axon will become what we call myelinated. It's myelin ization. And myelin ization is a very important thing, and it will help us as parents be a little bit more patient with our children, because myelin ization acts as an insulation. Now in front of us on the floor, not everyone can see it, we have an electrical cord that has some plastic covering around it. Teresa, why is that plastic covering on those wires?
It insulates it so that the electrical impulse or electricity stays in that conduit.
Yeah, and so it actually goes to the right place. That's exactly the same purpose as myelin ization. It makes that current, or the thought or the action, make sure it goes to the right place and not short out. Children do not have myelin ization yet. In fact, myelin ization occurs very it doesn't have a lot at birth, but as a child does things, the more experience that they have, the more myelinated that particular axon becomes. So the more usage you have of an axon, that's where the first myelinization starts. Now, another very, very important part of myelinization is food or nutrition. This fatty acid comes from the breast milk or the formula, and so nutrition for a baby is very, very important. Right now I'm seeing a lot of advertisements for brain food almost, as this particular food has the source to help with brain development. That's this myelinization. So a healthy diet is very important for brain development. And that's why we pediatricians usually, now if your pediatrician says something different, please listen to him. But that's why they usually say, please don't give anything low fat or non-fat to a child before 2. It's because we want this myelinization to happen. And so children, depending on who you talk to, myelinization is not doesn't complete until about the age, maybe up until 20, depending on when the brain has finished developing. But a 12-year-old does not have the brain development that an adult does. They do not have the thought processes that we do. So it's very important that when you ask a 2-year-old to go get his shoes and then he sees that there's some yummy fruit snacks sitting in the kitchen, his thought process splits, and that's where he goes. It's very important for you to understand that that's the type of brain development. Remember, nutrition, experience, and love is what helps a brain development.